Hello everybody, it's Rachel. Welcome back to my channel, and today we are doing something a little bit different. I'm gonna do a kind of cook with me session. I'm gonna be trying out a new recipe today. I've gotten really bored with a lot of the bright line recipes that I've been eating over and over and over and over for a while. So I asked around one of the online communities and got a few recipes, and one of the recipes I got was for Tabouli. I have never made it. I've had it at a restaurant a couple of times, so I have no idea what I'm doing. I could totally screw this up. I don't know. I'm gonna roughly be following a recipe from Genius Kitchen. I'll link it below, but I am going to have to modify the recipe in order to fit into my bright line macros, or whatever you want to call it. So I will also put my exact measurements that I use down in the bottom as well. So without further ado, let's get cooking. Alright guys, so our ingredients. We have a bunch of fresh tomatoes off the vine from my garden. We've got our scale back there to measure everything out. Lemon juice, quinoa. I'm going to go ahead and use some flavored olive oil this time. I'm hoping it will add a little bit more flavor. That might throw it off. I don't know. Some sliced olives, chopped garlic, salt and pepper, of course. And then over here we have our parsley and a bunch of green onions. So first things first, I'm going to get this pot of water boiling. Luckily I have an induction stovetop, so this has only been on here for about 1 minute and we're already at a boil. I'm going to add a generous amount of salt to that, and I'm actually going to have to turn that down a little bit. And then I have, this is 4 cups of water, and I have 2 cups of clean rinsed quinoa that I'm going to add to this water. Which is kind of messy. I don't think it matters what kind of quinoa you use. This is tricolor quinoa. Whatever quinoa you have is fine. Quinoa is quinoa. And we're going to put the lid on that and cook that for about 25 minutes. And the next thing we're going to do is address the parsley, because I think this is probably going to take the longest. The recipe calls for removing the parsley from the stem. You do not want stem in it, so I've got to go through all of this parsley, take it off the stems, separate it, and then weigh it and figure out exactly how much we're working with here. Now that we have the parsley separated from the stems here, we're going to transfer this to the cutting board, and I'm going to chop this up very finely. I decided that that is too much work for me, so we're going to put it in the food processor. Full disclosure, I've never used this thing, so I have no clue what I'm doing. I think we'll start off with that much because I don't know what I'm doing. What am I doing wrong? This is going to turn into how Rachel doesn't use a food processor. Okay, maybe that's it. Let's try that. No. You guys! I don't know what I'm doing. It doesn't want to close. I know. Oh my gosh. Safety or something? Now we're rolling. Okay. After all that, that worked really, really well. So I think that was a good idea overall, even though I'm apparently an idiot. I think that was actually a little bit too fine, so I think I'm going to pulse it a little bit less this time, so that it's a little bit more fluffy. me. Okay, that's better. Ta-da! The timing on that was pretty good. The quinoa is finished. It's cooked perfectly. I'm going to set this aside, let it cool for a few minutes, and then I'm going to transfer it to the refrigerator because nobody wants hot tabbouli. Tabouli. Tabouli. Taboul whatever. Now that we're done with that, I'm going to go ahead and quarter these tomatoes, and I'm going to dice up the green onion and set those aside. Okay, our tomatoes and onions are cut up. I think that is pretty much the end of our prep at this point. Now I just have to wait for that quinoa to cool down. I'm going to transfer it to the refrigerator now, so I will be back later. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and weigh my vegetables. The recipe called for 2 large bunches of parsley, which we had, 4 large tomatoes, which I think I have the equivalent of here in cherry and grape tomatoes, and roughly 6 green onions, which I think is about what I have here too. So I've got my scale zeroed out, and we're going to see how much this is so we can figure out how many meals this is going to make. I want to use this for lunch, and sometimes I do switch up my portion sizes, but ideally somewhere between 8 and 10 ounces is what I want per meal. Okay, so the weight ended up being 19.3 ounces, which is enough for me to make 2 8-ounce lunch portions with a little bit left over. So I think what I'll do is make 2 lunches out of it, and then I'll have to carefully measure out another partial serving that I'll use as a side for lunch another day or dinner. What I'm going to go ahead and do now is mix this up a little bit more, and then I'm going to separate it out into 8-ounce serving sizes and prepare them separately so I know exactly how much is in each serving. So I was able to get 2 8-ounce portions and 1 3-ounce portion. I want to add some olives to my salad. Olives, I can use 2 ounces for a fat portion, but since I'm also going to be using olive oil, I'm going to add 1 ounce of olives to each salad along with half a tablespoon of oil, so I'm going to go ahead and split it. Okay, so that's 1 ounce there. And 1 ounce there. And this will actually work out pretty good because I have just a little bit, about a quarter of a fat serving to put in the last salad. Okay, so that was half an ounce, so that was a quarter of a fat serving in that salad. And since this will be a side dish for another meal, that actually works out perfectly. Guys, so I think we're ready to assemble now. The quinoa's cooled down. I'm going to go ahead and use this bowl here because it's the best size for what I'm about to do. So I'm going to go ahead and dump all of my vegetables in here. And I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of salt, or a lot of bit of salt. Mix that up a little bit. And at this point, I'm going to turn my scale on and zero it out. And we're going to go ahead and add that quinoa in, little bit by little bit. And we're going to want to add 4 ounces of quinoa because that makes 1 protein serving if you are using quinoa in lieu of a animal-based protein. A little bit over there. Okay. That is 4 ounces. I made a lot of quinoa because it was going to expire soon, so whatever I don't use, I'll just save or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon, or I think I'll start with a half tablespoon. A half tablespoon of lemon juice. The recipe does recommend that you use fresh lemon, but I don't have any, so this is what we're doing. And then we're going to add my half tablespoon of olive oil. And drizzle that over top. And this isn't in the recipe, but I would like to add some garlic. So I'm going to add about 1/4 tablespoon of garlic. And a lot more salt and pepper. I have to say, this is probably the most labor-intense Brightline meal I have ever made. And I'm going to mix that up, and then we're going to give it a try. Alright guys, taste test time. I'm kind of a little bit concerned that maybe I should let this marinate and put it in the fridge, but I guess we'll find out. It's too late for me to do that. It's past lunch. I need to get my lunch eaten, so we're just going to try it as it is. I think I ended up putting half a tablespoon of olive oil and then about 1.5 tablespoons of lemon juice in this serving. And then I've got 6 ounces of strawberries and my trusty bubbly grapefruit water. So yeah, let's give this a try. I'm a little nervous. It smells very green. A lot of chewing. It's pretty good. It's a little bit rough. I don't know if I didn't cut up the parsley enough or if just the parsley itself is really rough. I kind of feel like, yeah, it would be better if I put the seasonings, the oil, the lemon juice on and then let it kind of sit together in the fridge overnight. I'm kind of thinking I'll do that tonight with what is left and try it again for lunch tomorrow. So yeah, overall, would I make it again? Maybe. I don't know. It's okay. It's not the best thing I've ever had. But again, I think it might be a lot better if I let it sit. I also think it would be better if it had more olives. So I think I might be inclined, if I make it again, to cut out the oil completely and just use olives, because I don't feel like the oil at half a tablespoon really adds much to it, you know? So it is very labor intensive. That is one of the most labor intensive meals I have made on Brightline. Most of my Brightline meals are really simple. They don't require a lot of prep. That took quite a bit of preparation. Of course, if I do it more frequently, I'm sure it'll get a little bit easier from there on out. But, you know, it's not bad. If you like Tabouli, whatever it's called, you might actually enjoy it. So that's it. That's today's lunch. Hope everyone's having a great Brightline week, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.